Skill 2 and a very good evening, everyone. Welcome back to MSBS Weekly Guided Meditation by Phra Goh. Today is the 26th of March 2024. MSBS is glad and grateful to have with us 𝐷𝐼 Adhibalo, popularly known as Phra Goh, to conduct this weekly session. This week, we are starting our new subject since it's Cheng period. But we'll be leading the homage to Buddha and taking a 5 precept for Buddhists. Now, let's compose our mind, put our palms together, and welcome Bhante. Over to you, Bhante.
Okay, thank you, Terence. So we start off with paying respects to the Buddha by giving 3 bows. First bow, second bow, third bow. Yeah, opening chant. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. 3 refuges. Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Dhammaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Dhammaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Dutiyampi Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Buddhaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Dhammaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. Tatiyampi Sanghaṃ Saraṇaṃ Gacchāmi. And the 5 precepts. Pāṇātipātā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Adinādāna vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Kāmesu micchācārā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Musāvādā vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Surameraya majjapamadatthāna vīramani sikkhapadang samadhiyāmi. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so good evening to everyone. Today we are starting a new topic related to probably the Qingming festival, suggested by someone who is still not here. So this is the PowerPoint, which is quite, or this topic is quite frequently asked, frequently requested. So I'm just reusing one of the older PowerPoint slides. Good thing it's a regular topic, so I don't have to rush and create a new one. So anyway, we'll just introduce the rites for the date. So it can be immediate passing or quite some time after. Could be after 49 days, 100 days, or whatever. So in Theravada Buddhism, there is actually no limit to the number of days. In fact, 365 days, anytime we can actually perform a good deed and dedicate it to the deceased. So that was the That was the original practice in the Buddha's time. So after some time, after the Buddha passed away, after the how to say, the scriptures were sort of like created or put into writing, or the monks sort of like memorized this Abhidhamma, and this custom come into play. So now the Theravada monks will chant the Abhidhamma or a segment of the Abhidhamma in a funeral or a wake. So even for post funeral kind of services like memorials and stuff like that, we also chant either parts of the Abhidhamma, we chant the Matika, which is one segment of the Abhidhamma. So like in Palelai Temple, we have the Longpo Memorial Day, the founding abbot. He passed away for 20 over years, so every year we'll chant this either the Abhidhamma and the Matikas. So basically, that's the, I would say, modern Theravada kind of custom, right? But the idea of the chant is actually by right to educate the living. In the Buddha's time, the Buddha will give Dhamma talk to the living to make them understand, right? So that they will overcome the grief. So nowadays, the so-called chants is not really targeted at the living relatives. It's more like you chant, then to them is you're chanting some mystical or magical incantation, and it will sort of bless or help the deceased, which is not really the case. So the only help that this chant may possibly do is to calm the minds of the living relatives. Right? If their minds are calm and if they are able to reflect on some of the teachings, they become more meritorious, and that might help the deceased. So that's probably one of the minimal functions. But in terms of chanting in Pali language, the audience have to understand Pali. Yeah? So anyway, I'll just show some of the brief slides of the chants, but I will just go through this slide first. So normally for the so-called complete, I would say rather complete kind of ceremony, there's a taking of 3 refuges and 5 precepts for the living relatives for them to create the merit. And the monks will start chanting this Abhidhamma or parts of the Abhidhamma, and followed by the Pamsukula. So Pamsukula is actually the ancient days, the Buddha allow monks to get rag cloth from the deceased. So it's as though the deceased offering the cloth or the robe to the monks. So either the living relatives can prepare robes or white cloth or a kind of unused cloth to give to the monks. So in our, at least the Pali-like kind of tradition, they put the robes on top of the coffin. They put it on top of the coffin. So the monks will chant this Pamsukula chant and take the robes. Yeah? So that is like as though the dead have offered the robes to the monks. And eventually, the final portion is dedication of merits. So that is the conclusion. Right? So there's a question. Chanting for the dead is not necessary and just a matter of personal preference. Right? So the, like mentioned, the chant is actually meant for the living, yeah, not really for the deceased. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are the segments of the Abhidhamma, and just briefly let you take a look. I don't want to read everything. Basically, though, these are the Dhammas that we kind of use in meditation, right? A skillful mind state, the wholesome mind states, right? Either greed, non-greed, non-anger, non-delusion, or yeah. So it operates through the 6 senses. your eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And we call this skillful kind of mind states. Okay, next. And then there's also a chant on the 5 aggregates. Yeah, form, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. Right, and this particular paragraph is normally founded in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta as well, the discourse of non-self, the sermon on non-self. So this reflection on the 5 aggregates can be done in the past, future, or present. So a person can be thinking of, for example, one of our meditation routines, the hair growing and falling. You need to have a reference of past. You have seen the hair falling before, eh? So that's reference of the past. And you need to think of the future. No, I will grow old, get ill, and eventually pass away, right? So you need to think of the past and the future, and also the present. So regardless of time, one can reflect on the impermanence of the 5 aggregates. Also, regardless of distance, internal or external, regardless of subtlety, blatant or subtle, gross or subtle. So some people may think, oh, Abhidhamma, right? Nowadays, Abhidhamma courses talk about, okay, you have to see refined particles, called kalapas. You have to look at mind states and javana, thought moments, microsecond thought moments and stuff like that. So that is not necessary. In fact, if a person is able to see such things, we call this subtle, refined phenomenon. So even for very blatant phenomenon, things like observing or reflecting on hairs falling, visualizing hairs growing and falling, a person can also get enlightened like this Arahant Sivali. Okay, common or sublime, common states of mind, you have the normal emotions or sublime states of mind, like the 4 sublime states, far or near, regardless of distance. That heaped and gathered into one is called the form aggregate, right? So on and so forth for the other aggregates. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are various properties. Properties are classified or unclassified, unclassified with the classified, and so on and so forth. Right? So this is Abhidhamma kind of cataloging. Okay, next slide. Okay, so these are the various kinds of individuals. So the reason why people chant this is more or less to, I would say, discern or differentiate what kind of person they are, where will they end up. Not so much for the deceased, but meant for the living, to reflect on the dead. One day if I pass away, what kind of being am I? Am I average human, run-of-the-mill human, or sort of understood the Dhamma, become a noble disciple, and so on. Yeah. So these are various types of beings. So just let you quickly read through, right? Whether they are released or not released, and so on. Different paths and stages, different individuals, basically. So this is the Abhidhamma way of subcategorizing into many, many categories. Okay, next. Okay, so this is particular book called Points of Controversy. It's when King Ashoka's era, or before King Ashoka's era, there were 18 schools of Buddhism, 18 early schools of Buddhism. So they were having debates with each other. So they were busy debunking each other, basically. So this is like one of their conversation, right? About ultimate self, whether there's true self or no self, those kind of stuff. So they were busy debating. So, so this is one of the solid proof that the Abhidhamma is in its entirety is not taught by the Buddha. Yeah, this is a debate amongst the 18 different sects. Okay, next slide. Okay, then we have this, again, this classification of pairs, whether they're skillful or unskillful. Okay, next. And the different kinds of causes and conditions, which are basically just a categorization. Huh? Okay, next slide. Okay, so once we're done with the Abhidhamma, so the original practice, like mentioned earlier, is to dedicate merits. So normally we refer to this Thiru Kuda Kanda, this particular story of this King Bimbisara. At first I thought it was Pasenadi. Okay, so then my King Bimbisara. Okay, so this particular king made some offering to the Buddha and the monks. But after making an offering, he did not dedicate merits to the deceased, or at least the Buddha haven't taught this teaching yet. So what happened was the past life relatives of this king came and kacau him at night, knocking the door, make a lot of noise, and wailing outside the walls. So he can't sleep because he felt very disturbed. So the following day, he asked the Buddha again about what happened, why do we have this phenomenon. So the Buddha mentioned to him that, yeah, these relatives want you to dedicate merits. So the king, this time round, he invited the Buddha and the monks again to make an offering. So this time round, he dedicated the merits to the departed relatives of the past, and the issue is resolved. So basically, in Theravada Buddhism, we believe that these betas or these hungry ghosts can be sort of saved or helped by the living relatives if we dedicate merits to them, right? So this is the more or less like the conclusion of the story, these few paragraphs. So then the Lord Buddha, having eaten and being invited in order to thank King Bimbisara, told the story of the petas outside the walls. Outside the walls they stand, and at crossroads, at doorposts they stand. So basically they are everywhere. Your house, the door inside, outside, near the wall, near the window, they're everywhere. Returning to their old homes. But when a meal with plentiful food and drink is served, no one remembers them. Right? So when a person makes offering to anybody, helping anybody or helping the Sangha, offering the Sangha, no, people don't dedicate merits. Such is the karma of living beings. Thus, those who feel sympathy for their dead relatives give timely donations and proper food and drink, exquisite, clean. Next slide. So this is just the dedication. You just need to think of 2 lines. May this be for our relatives. May our relatives be happy. That's all, no ceremony. The monks don't have to chant anything. You just need to say these 2 lines, either verbally or in your mind. So mentally, you just say these 2 lines and dedicate it to the deceased relative. Right? So if they are reborn as a hungry ghost, they should be sensitive. Their form is sensitive to these frequencies, and they will respond accordingly. And those who have gathered there, the assembled shades of the relatives, with appreciation, giving their blessings for the plentiful food and drink. May our relatives live long, because of whom we have gained this gift. We have been honored, and the donors are not without reward. For there in their realm there is no farming, no herding of cattle, no commerce, no trading with money. Okay, so in Buddhism, we see here no trading with money. So the burning of hell notes, that is purely Chinese custom, purely Chinese custom. So in at least in Theravada Buddhism, no commerce down there, right? So money doesn't apply there. They live on what is given here, hungry shades whose time here is done. Okay, next. As water raining on a hill flows. Okay, so in the picture on the right, this would be, I would say, the modern kind of invention. It's a symbolic representation of water flowing or merits flowing, just like an example, like I'm reading, as water raining on a hill flows down to the valley, even so does what is given here benefit the dead. As rivers full of water fill the ocean full, even so does what is given here benefit the dead. Does one need to offer food, joss sticks, burn incense paper to the departed? Right, so this is the common questions. So once you know there's no commerce down there, they can't farm or herd animals down there. And it is believed, right? These hungry ghosts, whenever they try to eat something, that so-called food will turn to fire, turn to flame, turn to ash, turn to feces, something inedible, basically. So they're always hungry all the time, right? So at least that's the Buddhist belief. All right. So if, let's say, you are out of maybe social pressure, you need to offer this food or this burning of paper, money paper to the deceased. Again, this is just a ritual, right? It's a thought that counts. So the emphasis is not on the physical ritual, but more on the thought. Okay, next slide. Okay, so the chant at the end, when the monks sort of do this chant to dedicate the merits, is actually this one. So I'll just read it in English, which is the second paragraph. He gave to me, she acted on my behalf. They were my relatives, companions, friends. Offering should be given for the dead when one reflects thus on things done in the past. For no weeping, no sorrowing, no other lamentation benefits the dead whose relatives persist in that way. So if a person is born as a hungry ghost, no matter how you cry, how you wail, how you show your unhappiness, it won't help them. Okay, next. But when this offering is given, well placed in the Sangha, it works for their long-term benefit and they profit immediately. So whatever offering made to the Sangha, the mind of the donor should be offering to the Sangha of all four directions. That means all the Sangha, it's not just one Sangha. All Sangha, past, present, and future. Past, present, and future. So that is the mindset. Okay, then this would greatly increase the merit. It makes the mind more selfless, more boundless. So that itself is very meritorious. In this way, the proper duty to relatives has been shown, great honor has been done to the dead, and monks have been given strength. The merit you've acquired isn't small. So if you give life to the monk, so that's good karma. Right, so that's the very least. Yeah, you give life and give strength to the monk. So cause and effect. So that karma is yours to accrue. Then you dedicate it to the deceased. Okay, next. So now we talk about the Buddha's funeral. Buddha's wake and funeral. Yeah? So you normally can find it in the Maha Parinibbana Sutta, the last days of the Buddha, under Digha Nikaya 16. So this is not the entire sutta. I sort of pick and choose some of the last moments. Okay, so when the Buddha was lying down, then these celestial coral flowers, heavenly sandalwood powder are raining from the sky. From the sky, rain down upon the body of the Tathagata, and drop and scatter and are strewn upon it in worship of the Tathagata. And the sound of heavenly voices, heavenly instruments makes music in the air out of reverence for the Tathagata. So the heavenly beings, this is their custom, their way of showing respect to the Buddha. Okay, next. But the Buddha doesn't want this. The Buddha doesn't want this from his disciples. So when a person passes away, or before you pass away, you all have a will to write, right? You need to write a will. So this is the Buddha's will. Yet it is not thus Ananda, that the Tathagata is respected, venerated, esteemed, worshipped, and honored in the highest degree. But Ananda, whatever bhikkhu or bhikkhuni, monks or nuns, laymen or laywomen, abides by the Dhamma, lives uprightly in the Dhamma, walks in the way of the Dhamma. It is by such a one that the Tathagata is respected, venerated, esteemed, worshipped, and honored in the highest degree. Right, so the Buddha actually wants his disciples to practice the teachings and see the truth. Therefore, Ananda, thus should you train yourselves, we shall abide by the Dhamma, live uprightly in the Dhamma, walk in the way of the Dhamma. So like any good teacher, right? So the Buddha, we treat the Buddha as the spiritual father. Like any good parent, like any good teacher, they want to see us successful. Okay, next. Okay, so this is more on the physical preparation of the body. So this one you don't have to worry because nobody will do this. The Buddha state clearly certain rituals can be only applied to the Buddha or a universal monarch, a universal king. So these body preparation rituals apply to this. So there's no regulation on how the disciples of the Buddha should handle the body. So I'll just read through. Then the Venerable Ananda said, how should we act, Lord, respecting the body of the Tathagata? So the Buddha don't want the monks to bother. Do not hinder yourselves, Ananda, to honor the body of the Tathagata. Rather, you should strive, Ananda, and be zealous on your own behalf. For your own good, unflinchingly, ardently, and resolutely, you should apply yourself to your own good. For there are, Ananda, wise nobles, wise Brahmins, and wise householders who are devoted to the Tathagata, and it is they who will render the honor to the body of the Tathagata. So basically, the Buddha said, specifically in this context, because Venerable Ananda is still not yet fully enlightened. He is still a Sotapanna, stream enterer. So the Buddha wants him to practice and reach this full enlightenment. So the Buddha actually let the lay persons or the experts handle the body. The people who are experts in the field of handling the body to handle the body, not the monks to handle the body. Then the Venerable Ananda said, but how, Lord, should they act respecting the body of the Tathagata? So interestingly, these so-called experts, these householders and wise Brahmins and wise nobles, may not know how to handle the body of the Tathagata. And actually the Buddha doesn't mind. The Buddha doesn't mind how the body is being handled. But in any case, since Venerable Ananda has asked, then the Buddha sort of answers. after the same manner, Ananda, as towards the body of a universal monarch. Okay, next slide. So the body of the universal monarch, Ananda, is first wrapped round with new linen. So all these are the process. You don't have to know. Wrap many rounds, 500 layers of linen, 500 layers of cotton wool. They need to place in an iron oil vessel and then close with another iron vessel. Very lazy. So nobody do this now. If you go to a funeral parlor, they won't sell iron vessel. Right? They won't sell iron vessel. So we just get what we have. Right? So you need a special funeral pyre with all kinds of perfume woods. So for our case, let's say our body is sent to a normal cremation, this incinerator, they won't put the perfume wood. It's all machine, all just burn really. Okay, and at the crossroads, eventually the last paragraph, a stupa is raised for the universal monarch. So it is done, Ananda, with the body of a universal monarch. Right, so the Buddha's body can be done the same way. So eventually built the stupa. Okay, next slide. And even Ananda, as with body of a universal monarch, so should it be done with the body of the Tathagata. And at the crossroads also a stupa should be raised for the Tathagata, and whosoever shall bring to that place garlands or incense or sandal paste, pay reverence, and whose mind becomes calm there, it will be to his well-being and happiness for a long time. So in the past, there weren't any Buddha images, no Buddha painting, so the stupa will be like the representation, at least the physical representation of the Buddha. So people make offerings to the stupa will gain lots of merit. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is a very interesting regulation. There are 4 persons, Ananda, who are worthy of a stupa. Who are those 4? That means who can actually ask for a stupa, right, to be built for you? A Tathagata, right? So the first one is for the Buddha, and the second person is the silent Buddha, and the third one, a disciple of a Tathagata. So this one depends on interpretation. So at the minimum kind of interpretation would be every Buddhist can actually request for a stupa. So nowadays, the funeral service don't provide this. Nobody offers stupa building. So maybe whoever in the funeral line can can look into this, see whether they can provide a stupa kind of service. And a universal monarch. So these are the 4 kinds of people. So these are a few common questions. Do we need to do tomb sweeping during Qingming? Can it be done during other periods of time? So like tomb sweeping for Qingming, this is Chinese custom. If let's say your family and relatives, they, if I'm not wrong, this custom is to bring families together. Bring families together. Probably China is very big, so they need to travel to the place where the ancestors are being buried to pay respects, right? So there's time for gathering, to offer food, and the food really not meant for them, it's meant for the family to eat eventually. So it's more of a family kind of reunion, I would say, more family kind of reunion. And of course, filial piety, remembrance of the ancestors. So again, this is custom is totally up to individual to practice. It's not of Buddhist origin. Yeah, but if you see the value in it, you see the positive value in it, you have right reflection, by all means, you can do it. Does one need to have a funeral tablet situated on a high ground to ensure good luck for the descendants? Again, the stupa is built on the floor, on the ground, so there's no regulation on high or low. Probably got to do with customs also. Is it okay not to have any burial? Sea burial is not advisable. Does it bring bad luck? Again, no regulation except for the one disciple can have this stupa. So for a lay person, a lay Buddhist, or even for monks, there's no regulation on how to deal with the body. So there are some monks who prefer as in preserving the body. Some don't want to be cremated. Some want to be like preserved. So you get a mummified kind of body. So it's totally up to individual. But since the Buddha is cremated, most Buddhists also sort of choose to be cremated. So where to bury? Currently there's a service to have this sea burial. If you want, you can enshrine it in a stupa. You can write it in your will instead of a sea burial. If anybody wants to, sort of pay respects. If you find that, hey, maybe nobody want to pay respect to stupa, you can maybe, make arrangements with a temple, see whether the temple wants a stupa, or any of your Buddhist friends or relatives who sort of have a shrine and want to put a stupa on it. So this one is no pantang one, not pantang. Stupa is embodiment of the disciple of the Tathagata. Okay, next. Okay, so I'll just read the highlights. So enough, Ananda, do not grieve. So what to do when a person pass away, or after they pass away, or before they pass away, do not grieve, and we reflect that all that is dear and beloved, there must be change, separation, and severance. Everything is subject to decay. How can one say may not come to dissolution? So in our meditation reflection, especially in the third sublime state, where we do the appreciative joy, one of the reflections is all beings will eventually be separated from all that they have achieved, right? So that is, we should do that regularly, so that when it comes to this time or any point of crisis in life, then the mind is kind of accustomed, right? And the bottom highlighted, now you should put forth energy, and so you too will be free from the tapes, right? So the Buddha is always nagging and Venerable Ananda to practice and reach enlightenment. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this is how the Buddha passed away. So I won't read the top, I just read from the bottom. So when the Buddha sort of like lying on the lion's posture on the right, he entered the first jhana all the way to the 8th jhana. This says, and even cessation of this perception and feeling. So the 8th level of concentration is called neither perception nor non-perception, and transcending that is called cessation. So once he reached cessation, then he go back down 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then from 1, 2, 3, 4. So at the 4th jhana, then he passed away. So basically, he went from 1 to 8, then cessation back down 8 to 1, and from 1 go up to 4, then he passed away. So that's how the Buddha passed away. Why he does it in this sequence, I do not know. So this is his probably practicing his routine. My opinion, I just practicing a routine. When the Buddha is sort of got enlightened, or after he got enlightened, that's how he practiced the jhanas up and down to reflect on dependent origination. Okay, next. Okay, so normal response of people, the monks, not yet free from passion, lifted their arms and wept, some flinging themselves on the ground, rolling from side to side, and wept. Right, so this is normal response. Okay, next. And the wise monks will remind the others everything is impermanent, all compounded things. How could this be otherwise? Right, so they'll tell the monks that crying enough, friends, do not grieve, do not lament. Right, everything is subject to decay and dissolution. Okay, next slide. Okay, so I'll end my sharing. I won't want to go into these. These are mundane details. Maybe the next lesson will cover more. So anyway, I've covered most of the do's and don'ts, especially for the coming Qingming kind of festival. Any questions on the ground?
Bante,
Yep.
got a question.
Yeah.
Just now you say, the two verse, right, to dedicate to our relatives, right?
Yeah.
Is it we say upon giving the dana to the monks, or do we say it before we give it, or do we say it when the monks are chanting, we say that two verse so that we can dedicate those merits to our relatives?
Okay. Yeah. So merit is generated when the mind is wholesome. So it can be any point of time before, during, or after.
Before, during, after.
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. Anytime you find your mind joyful or peaceful, then that's the best time to dedicate.
Okay. If we give after, right, when the sangha or the venerables have makan already, have
Yeah.
get the food,
Yeah.
will the food still be, because they are, you say sometimes our relatives might be beta or maybe beta in other lifetime, not only just this lifetime.
Yeah.
So will they get a chance to eat because the sangha has already consumed the food already?
Okay. Yeah. Very, very good question. In Buddhism, we believe the hungry ghosts have no chance to eat the food. Whatever they try to put in their mouth will get burned, will turn to fire, turn to ash, turn to feces, turn to blood, something disgusting. So they basically cannot eat at all.
So when you say we help them, how do we help them when, I just trying to understand.
Okay. Yeah, so the help is to help them in the in the long run. That means we don't help them by making them stay and maintain in hungry ghost realm. We try to lift them up from the hungry ghost realm. So whatever meritorious deed that we do, we dedicate to them, and hopefully, if they rejoice, that will be good enough for them to go out, escape from the hungry ghost realm.
Or not really necessarily in terms of food, in
Yeah,
this
so it
sense.
can be anything, even like attending this Dhamma class, when you're after your meditation, all this helps also. All these are merit also. So that's why every time after the session, then there will be a chant dedicated to the deceased relatives.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
no problem.
thank you, Martin.
Okay. So the offering of food directly to the ghost is probably folk religion practice. Yeah, folk religion practice. So it's practiced not just in China, but other parts of the world also. Yeah.
Bante, sorry. Bante, I'll ask a question. Just now you mentioned that there's no commerce in that world. Yeah. So that means they have no farming, so therefore no food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This definitely we can make the offerings right to the sangha, then indirectly they receive, right, Bante?
The whole idea of dedicating the merits to them is for them to rejoice lah. So how it manifests to them varies from person to person. Depends on how much merit.
So okay, food wise, probably we can do in this way. But how about lodging, Bante? They have no dwellings at all, right?
They are like everywhere, wandering around everywhere.
So they don't have a lodging at all.
Yeah.
So does it mean that they do not need the lodging, or they just don't have one?
That I do not know, because if they do not have their particular realm, no, they don't have space for cattle or herding or commerce, and probably it's just floating around, aimless, and just waiting to be rescued only.
So which means that they have a realm to live in only lah. That's their in a way their place of lodging lah.
Sort of, yeah.
Oh, they don't like us have houses to live lah.
If they have house, that means you have luxury to have food, lor. But no, they don't have. Yeah.
Only the devas have places to live lah, not the petas, right?
Yep. Mm.
So it means that all the burning of offerings or houses, these are
Folk practices.
folk practices.
Mm.
So as far as we remember that every time we do a wholesome deed, we dedicate to our past relatives.
Yep.
So also depending on their own how would you say that, Bante? So that they can receive the merits.
Okay, so the whole idea is being consistent, and whenever you feel joyful or feel peaceful, then that's the best time to dedicate the merits.
So which means that this merit thing, we need to do it very often for them as long as we have cultivated something wholesome.
Yeah, because we have many past lives. So actually we have many encounters. So everybody in a way theoretically is kind of related. Yeah, so anybody that passed, it could be some relative in your past life. Yeah.
They wouldn't automatically come to you for help.
If you if in that realm they are very desperate, so they'll look for anybody that they can recall as their relative. Yeah?
Oh,
Or
okay.
if your mind reach out to them saying, okay, all relatives of the past, then they will want to receive the aid.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I don't know, some charity organization want to distribute vouchers or distribute food aid to certain categories. So if they widen the category, then more people will queue up and try to get the aid. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, Bante, so we still have to offer the cloth or the ropes to them, right? Each time we make offering. Because I was told that on the other side they don't have anything, they have nothing to do, they have no clothes also, not only no food and water.
Yeah, so whatever good deed you do, whatever kind of charitable deed, can be physical kind of donation or even mental one, a meditation, as long as the mind is joyful and peaceful, you can dedicate it to the deceased relatives.
Also, like when we make any dana in the name of the late person, they also can get the merit, right?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, any other questions? Okay, if not, then we go for a 5-minute break and we come back for a guided meditation. And that's the time we generate more merits, then eventually we can dedicate them. Huh? So see you in 5 minutes time. So Alice, does that presentation answer the question on the rites being done to the Buddha? There's still the second half. Next lesson we'll go through. So the second half is a bit more detailed. There's after the Buddha passing, so we talk about the cremation and stuff like that.
But one thing when we dedicate our merits, right? Do we also dedicate merits to our what do you call it, karmic creditors?
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah, you can do that. It's more making peace and diplomacy, goodwill. Yeah.
So for the past, present, and future as well. Is it?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Bante, I have a question. How
Okay.
would we know whether our past relatives are happy or they are suffering?
How do you know? Very good question. I won't know also. So the whole,
Unless they turn up in your dreams.
they're also not reliable unless
Not
you are very
reliable.
confident that whatever you dream is true. Yeah.
Unless you continuously having had the same dream, that they come and ask for help.
Not that is no. You need to like have a field test in your observation. Whatever you dream does happen in like real life and that kind of stuff. Something like premonition.
That means you have to know how to feel what is
know how to interpret the dream correctly. Yeah.
so you have to remember everything. You cannot forget.
Yeah. So anyway, this interpretation of dreams is not really part of the Buddhist teaching. Also, it's more of probably animistic kind of skill under spiritism. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes yes, what you say cannot be accurate. Probably maybe out of the blue suddenly you may thought of your past relative. Then all these are being stored in the mind. Yeah, if in a day you have been thinking about all this, right?
Yeah.
Then probably at night you will dream. That could be a possibility on the soul.
Yep.
Unless in a day you have never thought of anything. Yeah, then probably if in the night you dream, then it could be a possible thing.
Well, the mental formations and memory is non-self, so whatever appear beyond our control.
Thank you, Bante.
Okay, no problem. Okay, I guess majority of the people are back, so we can start with the guided meditation. So you find a comfortable sitting posture, make sure the back is upright and the rest of the body relaxed. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is reflect on the impurities of the body, learning to accept the nature of the body. So we start off with wishing all the hairs well and happy, from head to toe. Every patch of hair, may they be well and happy. So the visualizations of the hair is part of mindfulness of the body. And the labeling, wishing it well and happy, that is part of right thought of non-anger. And the repetition is called right effort to maintain these skillful qualities, wholesome thoughts. So new patch of hair, well and happy, new patch of hair, well and happy. And we need to observe the state of mind. Is it getting calmer or is it getting more anxiety, more tension? So if the mind gets calmer, means you're on the right track. If you get more stressed up, means more craving, yeah? So that will determine your right view. So for those who just join in, we are now wishing all the hairs well and happy. So we are actually not training the hairs. Yeah, we are training the 5 clinging aggregates that create the image of the hairs. So actually learning to loosen the clinging of the aggregates with loving kindness. And once your mind is relatively settled down, and the rate of settling is like quite negligible, the mind is quite stable, then this would be the minimum requirement for insight. So now you can think of all the hairs going through birth, aging, sickness, and death. And we think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can keep labeling impermanence. So how much merit does a person have depends on how much inner peace and happiness you have, yeah? The more sensual kind of happiness, that would be, we call it unwholesome state of mind. Any kind of peace and happiness that is devoid of craving, devoid of greed and anger, and that is a meritorious state of mind. And observe this sense of self or selfishness or this ego. Is it increasing or decreasing in intensity? And we can ask ourselves, are these hairs truly self? Can we tell the hairs not to go through birth and death? And next we can think of the nails, fingernails and toenails. May they be well and happy. And all these nails go through birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So we think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this process, we can keep labeling impermanence or any word or phrase associated with impermanence. You can call it rising and falling, you can call it birth and death. Just pick your favorite and keep repeating. And then we can ask ourselves, are these nails truly self? Can we tell the nails not to go through birth and death? So the next part of the body, we're going to think of the teeth, all the teeth inside the mouth. May they be well and happy. And all these teeth are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So we think of them growing and falling, many, many cycles. So even though our teeth fall off twice only, we can keep repeating. And the more we keep looping this image, we can keep labeling impermanence. And the whole idea is repetition, keep labeling impermanence. And we can ask ourselves, are these teeth truly self? Can we tell the teeth not to go through birth and death? So the next part of the body, we're going to think of the skin. And the entire skin from head to toe, may they be well and happy. Every patch of skin, may they be well and happy. New patch of skin, may they be well and happy. And all the skin are subject to birth, aging, sickness, and passing away. So you think of the skin growing and falling, many, many cycles. And as we keep looping this image, we can keep labeling impermanence. And then we can ask ourselves, are the skin truly self? Can we tell the skin not to go through birth and death? And the next phase of meditation, we are going to familiarize ourselves with the mindfulness of the four elements, the earth, fire, wind, and water elements. So in this routine, there's no need to visualize. There's no way to visualize the heat element or the wind element. So we are going to just use sensations. So anything hard and soft, that's the earth element. Anything that is moving, fast and slow movement, that's the wind element. Anything hot and cold, that's the heat element. And anything moist or dry, that's the water element. So we're just going to basically feel the sensations throughout the entire body. So there's no need to imagine or superimpose, don't have to purposely generate any sensation. Let it appear naturally by itself. And whatever appears, we are going to wish them well and happy. So all these are real-time evidence. The sensations are the mindfulness of the body. Then the labeling, the right thought, wishing it well and happy, that's part of right thought. And the repetition is part of right effort. Every time you experience a new sensation, it can be pleasant or unpleasant, whatever element it may be. If we do not couple it with right thought, then the mind will definitely react with wrong thought. So the mind will either react with greed or anger. And so the mind should also settle down to the similar baseline emotion, why we call it baseline, because this is the neutral state, no jhanas or no vipassana at this point of time. And we use it as a control, like a control sample to compare with other states of mind. So basically we can remember this emotion, wishing the sensations well and happy. And now we are going to cultivate this boundless loving kindness, and we are going to wish all beings in all directions well and happy, above, below, and all across. All directions, in front, behind, left, right. No need to push the mind, let it extend naturally by itself. However far the mind wishes to extend doesn't matter. And in that widened area of attention, whatever sensation appear, whatever elements appear, this time round we are going to wish all beings well and happy. So we change the label. Instead of directing to the element, we are going to wish all beings well and happy. This is using the non-discrimination approach. All beings are made of the elements. So whatever sensation appear, we are going to wish all beings well and happy. So no need to visualize. Because once you visualize certain being look very cute, you have a certain emotion, certain being look very scary, you have another emotion. So we avoid this first. We use the non-discrimination approach. Any sensation appear, may all beings be well and happy. So the less imagination, the less dramatization, the better. And the mind can calm down easier. And always keep the Dhamma wheel turning, keep generating right thought, keep wishing all beings well and happy. And if all the conditions are right, you have all the right thought, right effort, right everything, and it will trigger this right concentration. So if there's any increment in any pleasant emotion like joy and happiness or peace compared to the neutral baseline emotion, then that would indicate the first level of concentration. And regardless of what you experience, keep on wishing all beings well and happy. Treat everything as byproduct and passing sceneries. Emphasis is on rowing the boat, planting the cause, turning the Dhamma wheel. Okay, next we add some wisdom, some insight into the practice, and we're going to reflect how to cultivate a more unconditional loving kindness. That is to reflect on impermanence. So whatever sensation you detect, we are going to change the label to impermanence. New sensation appear, impermanence. New sensation appear, impermanence. And no matter what happened, keep on reflecting on impermanence, treat everything else as a distraction, as a byproduct. Okay, and if, let's say, the joy and happy kind of emotion has faded away, one may experience this neutral and refreshing kind of experience. So we call that equanimity, often associated with the fourth level of concentration. So regardless of what you experience, keep on reflecting on impermanence. And before we conclude this session, same gentle reminder: in all activities, standing, sitting, walking, or lying down, as long as we can maintain these boundless sublime states or impermanence, then this would be the noblest living. And with that, we can gently open our eyes, formally end the session. Informally still can generate right thought. Okay, any questions or issues from anyone? No issues, all okay. Then we can dedicate merits. Akasata ca Bhumata Devanaga Mahitika Punyang Tang Anumoditva Chirang Rakantu Loka Sasanang Etavata ca Amhihi Sampadang Punya Sampadang Sabe Deva Sabe Bhuta Sabe Sata Anumodantu Sabha Sampati Siddhya. So dedication of merits to the departed. So these are basically the two important lines to take away. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. And aspiration. Imina punya kamena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And we end off by paying respects to the Buddha by bowing 3 times. First bow. Second bow. Third bow. Okay, then the advertisement for June's retreat. Anything Terence on to add? No? Okay. And that's basically it. So next week will be the first week of the month, so there won't be any live stream, but there will be Zoom only. So it's meant for Q&A, mainly Q&A and interview of the no recording. So anybody can share anything more you think that's more personal. Then the live stream, this lesson will continue the following week. All right, so that's it, and good night.